Hello there, I'm Hill, and welcome to Hearts of Iron 4, a guide for the United Kingdom Fascism World Conquer, or as I like to call it, Rule Britannia, because, Rule Britannia. So I have been experimenting for about 30 hours on the most efficient path towards world domination with Britain, and I have come up with a pretty nice path, so I'm going to give you guys a little guide how to do so, how you should kind of beeline certain things and try to world conquer. So, the key thing is that you need to become a fascist. As always, fascism is basically one of the best because you can start justifying on everybody, and this just kind of awesome. So your first moves are, you need to go to limited rearmament. You have a number of paths to do if you are a focus tree, but I believe this is the most efficient. What you are aiming for is a few different paths. 1, you want encourage colonial elite for the research time reduction. 2, you want general rearmament and shadow scheme to be done as soon as possible, but they require 5% world tension, which you will not get until early 1937. But it's also dependent on what happens in your game. So your first steps are to go limited rearmament, which gives you 2 civilian factories. And the reason we do that is because, 4 civilian factories, and because being able to build more military factories early is great. After we do that, we are unable to do these 2. So we go to here to reinforce the empire, service overseas, and encourage colonial elite. A big milestone for your focus trees is the Military Training Act, because that will reduce, or rather remove, the War to End All Wars modifier, which is a reduction of recruitable population by 25%, and that's a serious hamper to your ability to fight. So that's a big thing, but unfortunately we can't get that until 31st December 1938. And you want to get all 3 of these so you want to get both of these 140 days before the 31st of December, which is in August, I believe, or the 14th of August, I think it is. So once 14th of August hits, you go home of 1938, you go home defense, gas masks, and military training act. So try to sync that up. The key thing is to try and get general rearmament and shadow scheme as quickly as humanly possible, because these are such fantastic ones, and also going down industrial effort and royal ordnance factories. That's your basic guide for national foci. You also want to try and time the Royal Tank Regiment so that you can get your Crusader tanks, which, while being also historically flavorful, are wonderful improvements on the Matilda tank. So that's a very good little thing you should know. The key thing is limited rearmament, and do things in a very set pace. Last note is about the development of other powers. Once you go down the Commonwealth ties, you can give factories, essentially, without losing them, to South Africa, Canada, and the Raj and Australia and New Zealand. Once you turn fascism, or fascist, all of them will leave you except for India. So, do Commonwealth tiles and develop the Raj, but don't ever do these because you'll have to fight them eventually. Key thing about research is you have a set path you really need to stick to. Obviously, the first things you should know are that the engineering section are actually almost all done. You've got the electrical engineering and radar and shit. The key thing is the industry. Obviously, you go basic machine tools for the production efficiency cap increase, and you go construction. You then always go concentrated industry, and as soon as you're able, you always go down these paths because they are fantastic. You don't really need synthetic oil, you're always going to be fine for oil, and you've got so many factories you can trade for no problem at all. Your other 2 initial researches, generally speaking, should be to get the Hurricane fighters, you can start producing better fighters, and to get the Matilda light tanks, you can start early on getting better tanks. After that, your key thing is you're going to want to start to build up towards this. Work towards getting better support things, like for example getting field hospital is a very good idea considering your low recruitable population. You want to be working towards improved artillery when you are able. I tend to get it around the midpoint of 1938, roughly around the same time I start the national focus for home defense. Going down home defense, gas marks, and military training act, because I really want to be able to have improved artillery before I go to war, because unfortunately, due to a bug, Artillery 1 has defense 10, whereas Artillery 2... Oh, they patched this. Well, they patched it. I know nothing. It was previously on 2, but it is still a big difference, and I obviously really want to make sure improved artillery is workable. So, land doctrine-wise, another thing we're going to do is move away from the awful land doctrine. I'm clicking away real quick. From Grand Battle Plan. It's a terrible doctrine. It's really good for planning, but you're not going to be planning. You're going to be doing massive, fast hits as quickly as you can. So that's not important, really. The only useful thing about this is night attack is really nice under infiltration, and you get supply consumption reduction on both sides of the tree. I can't find the other one. Where is it? Is it there? I swear I used to get from that. Oh, the key thing, that supply reduction is really nice, but superior firepower is just infinitely better, especially because you have a large factory base. And this helps you reduce manpower casualties, and it gives you a crap ton of organization and soft attack, which is wonderful. I go down the integrated support feature because I'm going to be using tanks quite extensively, and integrated support allows my support battalions to have more influence, whereas dispersed support basically makes it only affects the ones I put in my infantry units, because the eventual composition, well, we'll get to that in a second. Eventual infantry composition is a really important thing to bear in mind because Britain starts with some really strange divisions. The infantry division is pretty standard, 3x3 of infantry with an engineering support, which is pretty great. We're eventually going to end up with 2 frontline artillery, which is the standard 7-2 infantry artillery, giving you a combat width of 2. You need to make sure you have a lot of artillery in your storage, about 12, well, it's 1200 for me now, but I only have so many infantry divisions. You need a lot. We're also going to end up with support artillery, recon company, and field hospital, as well as logistics support, so as to help nullify supply usage and help save resources. Very good division, and it's going to be incredibly solid for pushing and taking everything. It is going to have some supply issues with artillery, but by the time you start getting places where artillery is a problem, we shouldn't suffer supply issues because we should be outproducing them like mad. Cavalry brigade, these guys are nothing. They're basically just going to be nullified to being military police, and as soon as we have them researched, we will have military police researched, put it in the cavalry brigade, and they will be keeping the country oppressed, basically. The tank brigade's weird. It's 3 singular bloody light tanks. As soon as we can actually put, we can actually put motorized infantry, but basically we put motorized infantry in this pattern. So we put light tanks like this. And the reason we do this is it creates a really good balance, creates a total of 20 combat width, which is what you aim for, but a very good balance between soft attack, defense breakthrough, and HP. Look at that increase of HP, it's beautiful. However, as you add tanks, it will massively drain what you expect to have, so watch out for that, because you're producing of only 3 tank brigades in the division, and suddenly you up it to 6, and suddenly you need double the amount of tanks you've already produced, so you gotta make sure you watch that. We'll also eventually do the same thing with a medium tank brigade, and that will kind of be focused on having medium special artillery as well. Right, initial production lines. So we've got infantry equipment support and light tank. We need to start building lots of light tank because the very first things we're going to be doing is we are going to be making quite a lot of those. We need to change interwar bomber into close air support because who wants to use interwar bombers? We turn down the destroyers down to just 1. And then make this one infinite, put them all into Sussex, mostly because I like having my fleets in Sussex. I don't know, it just seems right. I feel like all fleets should be in Portsmouth. That, as a Brit, that's what seems right to me. As a lover of naval history and shit. Now, what we're going to do, this will end up with just the destroyers like that, and then we're going to make infinite submarines, and then we'll make an infinite light cruiser. And we'll also reduce these ones again. The light cruiser is essentially the most OP ship in the game. So another thing we want to do, as soon as one of these researches is done, we want to be researching the next type of light cruiser, which is, is the Southampton class. And these are such fantastic things, and they're great at detecting subs. They're just really, really good, and you want them in your navy, and they're very powerful. So that's kind of the initial things you should do for your navy. The actual production lines, well, you put a couple into tanks, yes. Put a couple into infantry. I have 2 in support just to kind of start the support train rolling. And yeah, I mean, we don't really need to kind of use the oil. Time your oil usage so you don't have to trade for extra oil until you need to. If you just need 1, it's no fun. Also, we do have 5 extra dockyards, so I will drop that. Oh, I'm actually making way too many light cruisers. So I'll drop that into this one. And even as I say that, we now do actually need more oil. So I will actually trade oil with the United States because we have a lot of convoys. It doesn't overly matter. That's the key thing. Initial factory assignments. I like to build just like 1 extra civilian factory. Literally 1. And then build military factories for days. I mean, it's best if you just kind of put them like this and you can kind of forget about them. Just put them everywhere, For God's sake, it doesn't matter. No one's going to be able to oppress you. We're going to have total control over these areas. It doesn't matter. I build the extra civilian factories because I just like to get that initial burst. It may not be just totally efficient, but I do like its ability, to be able to build more factories early. Also, limited rearmament is going to give us an additional 4 And general rearmament is going to reduce consumer goods requirement, thus giving us even more factories. So the first moves are settled. We know what we're making, we know what we're researching. The key thing now is, what's our long-term plan? Long-term plan is become fascist. So the first political power purchase we can make, we get John Becket, the fascist demagogue, which is a freaking ridiculously amazing name. Demagogy? Who knows? And he would give us fascism over a long period of time. So we're just going to massively turn up the speed, and we're just going to wait. And the key thing is that we allow limited rearmament to happen. It means we're going down to 1 political power a day. But then we don't do it on the national focus, because we want to get 2 political power a day to get the fascist demagogue as quickly as bloody possible. Why is... Oh, this cavalry should also be here, because I don't want to train the cavalry. I don't really care about the cavalry. And so what that then means is we get him a little bit faster. Your next purchase should be, with political power, should be into limited conscription, so you can start actually making more troops. Your third purchase is a decision. You could either go into war industrialist, but I generally tend to go so you can build military factors faster. I generally tend to go Harold Alexander, so I can get extra army experience and land doctrine reduction. You could also go industrial concern for that research time reduction, but it's not overly important. After that, it's kind of, you can do what I just said, the other ones. You should probably get Chief of Army Offense at some point, and try and get Tank Designer for the exact time that you're going to be researching the Crusader tanks, so they get extra reliability and soft attack, making them even more redonkulous. And also, when you eventually turn fascist in mid-1939, try to ensure that you have 150 political power ready, so you can swap to war economy, which is fantastically better. It's just fantastically better. Key thing, George V has died, that's fine. You will get a choice when you become fascist and Oswald Mosley takes over. You will receive a choice that basically says, allow Edward VI, who will become king in a bit, to return. And while you do get a lovely reduction in justification times, what ends up happening is that you lose 40% of your political power a day, giving you only 0.6 a day, and it's just so terrible. It's not good enough, and you basically are never able to afford any more political power things, so it's not worth it. So do not take that decision. That is my advice. Now, when you become fascist, the first thing you'll do is justify on France, begin naval invasions and occupy this area, and then land. I've worked out, for some reason, the AI just doesn't really pay any attention to this province right here in the Pas-de-Calais region, and this province next to Cherbourg. You don't even need Marines. Attack with 2 and 3, respectively, of infantry divisions, because you can only do 5 until you research the next marine landing technology. Then move them 1 province over to nick the port in Normandy, both in Normandy, or you can even go up to Dunkirk and, reverse history. And then you can just move your armies over. In the last test I did of this, I forced France to capitulate within 27 hours of landing, and most of that was because I spent 7 or 8 of the hours not realizing I could just nick everything. And you actually only need Cherbourg, Le Havre, Rouen, Calais, Paris, and Reims, and that's all you need to capitulate them. And all their forces will be here, meaning that they will not actually get the chance to properly push you back, which is fantastic. Having taken Paris and France in general, you will be able to annex the entire territory. Then, once that has happened, garrison it with horse troops, cavalry brigades, who you will hopefully have already made ready, so as to reduce their suppression. Justify on Brussels, in Belgium, and in the Netherlands to nick that territory very, very quickly, as well as justify on Switzerland. Take all of those territories, and then you have a choice. I have done a few mistakes where I tried to justify on Norway and Sweden, and it just got me bogged down far too much. Leave it out, honestly. You could also justify on Denmark, but then things could happen. A better move might be to strike against the United States as quickly as possible, because the US starts in a very poor situation. And once they get the ability to do war bonds, they become really, really good. Because war bonds remove the Great Depression national spirit, and, once that's gone, they're pretty powerful. Because it's a reduction of political power, but also huge troops, and they've just become amazing. So the key thing is stop them before they build too many factories. Stop them before they get too many troops. So after taking France and all this, plan naval invasions with marine divisions and land them north of Boston, land them northeast of New York, between Philadelphia and Baltimore, and if you can manage it also next to Charleston. Land all those troops, take every major point, bring about 15 tank divisions and about 40 infantry divisions, and beeline Detroit and Chicago, and that will be enough victory points after taking these towns to force them to capitulate. And if you get the ones down here, Charleston, Carolina, these ones as well, you may not even need to do that. And with the US capitulated, obviously you can destroy Canada easily, justify on Mexico and rampage through that, and the game is basically done at that point. You can justify on Germany, and what you can do is you could either take Denmark and go up there, or do naval invasions here, here, and here, secure ports, bring troops across, and then basically beeline them. If you do it here, you can take Berlin in about 3 days, according to some of my tests. It all depends on what the AI does, because I play without historical AI focuses on. In my last game, Japan refused to do the Marco Polo incident, which was really irritating, which meant that the war tension wasn't raised, which is a very valuable point. You are unable to do Shadow Scheme or General Rearmament until you've received 5 and 10% respectively world tension. That was kerfuffled. World tension will not be raised until the civil war in Spain is concluded, or Japan has declares war on Shaanxi and China, and that will happen early to mid 1937, so time it for that. So that turned out a lot longer than I intended it to be, but I hope that's really helpful. That's kind of the guide of how to conquer the world as the United Kingdom. What I'm going to do is I am now going to play this game to its conclusion and conquer it. I'm not going to do a Let's Play of it because I already have a Let's Play of German Reich Veteran difficulty, and I'm going to keep making that, as well as making other Hearts of Iron videos and other Paradox Let's Plays as well. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any comments or any requests for further tip videos, leave me a comment below. And as always, the like and subscribe really help. But the key thing is I really wanted to help you guys out, and I think this is a very good method of becoming fascist UK and having Oswald Mosley rule the world. I would love for it to be Edward, but it's too crappy. Paradox needs to change that. The reduction of political power is such a huge problem. So, I was Aldra Hill, and I will continue to be, and this has been Hearts of Iron 4, Rule Britannia. Bye-bye.